Weiss's garden in Livermore. Kat is the owner of Kat Weiss Landscape Design. She designs native plant gardens in the Tri-Valley area. If you'd like to see a portfolio of her work, you can visit the Find a Designer section of the tour's website. And Kat's talk is on transitioning a garden to California native plants. When they moved into this home 4 years ago, Kat decided to take the slow approach to her new garden, and she'll be talking about that process with us today. So let's go now and meet Kat Weiss and hear about transitioning from non-native ornamentals to natives. So hi, Kat, are you there? Hi, Kat.
I think so. Hi, I was having some issues. I was trying to start the video and then it would say host stopped the video. I'm like, I started the video.
No, I have issues all the time, but thank goodness we have Jessica, our Czarina, our very own Zoom Czarina, helping us with all of our issues today. So thanks for joining us, Kat. So let's see. I know you're going to show us 2 videos. So when was your first video made?
So the first video was made in late July, and that's when most of the natives that I planted in the front garden were doing their thing and looking really awesome. So I wanted to show a video of just talking about the natives themselves at that time, where the buckwheat's flowering, the fuchsia's flowering. Then the second video was more focused on talking about what to do in the transition and when we make those choices, and choices that I'm going to make or choices that I have made to sort of weed out the non-natives bit by bit so I don't freak my neighbors out.
The plants that you're choosing to put in are going to be able to tolerate and actually do well in Livermore's hot, dry summers.
That is the hope. I would say, I kind of joke sometimes that I'm a good designer and not such a great plant mom, because I'm like, you will survive and you shall survive on very little water and very little care. So it's a bit of a Darwinizing approach to my own garden, where I'm playing with things and experimenting. I love it all. So every time I see one, I have to bring it home and plant it somewhere. And maybe I didn't get the irrigation hooked up, and maybe I forgot to hand water it. And then there's a happy accident and it survives. So yeah.
So something that I have gotten good at after all these years of seeing gardens is recognizing a garden. And I know that you designed this garden, Tim and is it Chris Boskanowski's garden, right?
That's right.
So,
I'm sitting in Chris's garden right now, virtually.
One of my favorites. Get out of the way for the moment and let people see your back.
Well, okay, when I get out of the way,
they see the thing. It's okay.
You see the thing.
I love this sinuous path and that beautiful California lilac next to the wall. And it was a narrow backyard, and Kat had this mound on the left that was just so beautiful. I love this yard. And if you want to see more pictures of it, you can go to okay, come on, Pat, come back and join us. You can go to Find a Garden on the tour's website. There's a new area called Find a Garden, and type in Livermore, or there's an easier way. Go to Find a Designer and look up Kat Weiss, and you'll find Tim and Chris Boskanowski, and you can see more photos of this garden. It's one of my favorites. But now let's go look at your garden. We'll leave it to Jessica to switch us on to your first video.
Hi there. My name is Kat Weiss, and this is my house in Livermore, California. We purchased the property 4 years ago, and it had a lot of existing plants on it. It had a fake lawn, which they had transitioned to star jasmine. You can see in the background pepper trees. There's Coleonema, the breath of heaven, some of the Chinese raspberry, loropetalum, and several mock oranges and boxwood. And initially I thought, okay, we need natives here, but I didn't want to rip it out full scale. So what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit of transition landscaping, where we can make some choices and transition our home landscapes to natives bit by bit, so it's not quite a shock for the homeowner or the neighbors. This is a parkway strip that was planted in almost exclusively society garlic, that little number, and I'm trying to transition it sort of plant by plant to some Salvia spathacea, the hummingbird sage, sorry. And I've got some deer grass going. There was quite a bit of rosemary. Not that I don't like rosemary, but maybe we just need one. And we can add more Arctostaphylos uva ursi, Massachusetts, or perhaps Arctostaphylos Point Reyes. There's some more deer grass. And if we look over here, got a really big breath of heaven. And it looks big and flush right now because it's spring. This is probably going to be its last year here. And it looks quite fun next to this razzleberry loropetalum. But I would really like to see some sages, some artemisia, some mimulus. So I've started transitioning with a black sage, some artemisia, pycnocephala, sage scrub. I've got a lepicinia fragrance here, pitcher sage. I've got a brandigee sage. So what I did was to build this mound over the old star jasmine and to begin to transition here first. As I ripped out all the star jasmine and some other invasives that we had. And this is step 2. What happens when the breath of heaven and the loropetalum go away? Well, I've got a little Louis Edmonds manzanita waiting to peek out to get some sun. Oh, there's my shadow. And we've got some locally native Grindelia stricta. This is going to be full of bright yellow sunflowers. I'm also working on transitioning in a little blue jeans wild lilac and some more ground cover manzanitas to take the place of this once very large lavender. And while I still have the lavender, I was working on getting this sticky monkey flower going, Mimulus or Antiochus. As well as some little buckwheats, Eriogonum parvifolium, waiting for them to burst into action. I've also got some Mendocino reedgrass here that I've kind of sprinkled all over. So partially what I'm thinking is I took out some of the lower stuff and I've incorporated some natives, as I also incorporate some taller stuff. Here's a cute little blue oak, Quercus douglasii, that I am waiting for it to do its fun stuff. And this is the tail end of the Bouteloua gracilis blonde ambition with these super fun little mustache inflorescences. This is mixed in an area where there was a ton of lavender stochas, the Spanish lavender, and some of these other lavender seedlings. A ton of Santa Barbara daisy, which is kind of needing some pruning. So here it was a perennial bed that I thought I could just transition to some different grasses. There is going to be a desert willow. He's only 1 foot tall right now. And that's gonna sort of grow up and be the canopy for this area right here along with my blue oak. So there's the wall that I built to raise up the grade level a little bit, get a mound going. And here's one of the manzanita, ground cover manzanitas, emerald carpet, which was already here. So this was awesome. And I'm just gonna transition some more of these guys. And next on the chopping block is gonna be the mature mock orange, because I foresee this area as a haven for ribes, the currants, and some other semi-shade lovers. And here's another big decision. What happens when little Mr. Squirrel brings you a little acorn, little hybridized Quercus agrifolia, coast live oak hybrid. And then there's a pistache here, this Chinese pistache, which is a knockout in the fall, but frankly, who is it doing any good for other than me for about 3 weeks? So, do we take out the nearly mature pistache and allow room for Mr. Oak? And I say yes, because if you have all watched Doug Tellemy's talk, you realize this oak can provide a home and food for hundreds of little critters and creatures, where I'm not really sure how many are going to really take advantage of Mr. Pistache. So this is sort of my transition attempt. I cut off a few branches to allow more sun to Mr. Oak, and we're just going to see what happens, but it's a big decision. The other thing I'd like to transition out are these pepper trees, which look pretty swell next to my country fence. But again, are they really offering much food or cover to any of the creatures around here? And instead, could I incorporate some more baby oaks? Could I get some large-scale manzanitas going as I think about taking out this last star jasmine? Can I think about ninebark? Can I think about this dark star ceanothus to transition out as I get things going? Little John Dorley manzanita to take over where a star jasmine or some ivy would have been. Other options for ivy substitutes: more of the manzanitas, evergreen currant, which is Ribes vivernifolium, appreciates a little shade because it likes to hang out in the edges of woodlands. Maybe I can take out this non-native mirror plant and I can bring in some Rus ovata or Rus integrifolia, the sugar bush and the lemonade berry bush. And again, maybe I can take out my pepper tree and allow my little oak baby to do his thing. There's lots of decisions you can make along the way to just take one thing out and transition to a more ecologically sound and rich environment. Oh, look at that. Right on cue, a little bird went by. And this is my last area that I was going to show you. I'm transitioning out this mock orange to a Galvesia speciosa. This is some red fescue, fescue mullate, blended with Idaho fescue. And here we are back again with our black sage. So Mr. Breath of Heaven is going to disappear. And again, we're going to bring in some white sage, sticky monkey flower, which is more akin to this area around here. I'm going to bring in some more grindelia for some nice yellow. I'm going to bring in some seaside daisy. I've been playing around with different buckwheats as well. So these are all some great ideas as we appreciate the landscape we've got, but maybe think about what comes next.
Okay, Kat, that was fun. Thank you. So let's see. It's very interesting that you are in taking this slow approach. You're planting now, and then you'll be pulling other plants out over the course
Right.
of time.
Right. And I think some of that is probably similar to other clients or other people where maybe the cash flow is not quite, you're not ready to do the whole thing full stop, but you can rip out one thing and put in three. And if you can do it in phases in your head, bits and pieces. And as to if you're a DIYer like me and you only have so much time, maybe I'm not going to plant all 50 plants. Maybe I'll plant 5, 10 and keep chipping away at it. But I think for myself, I like to just play and figure things out as I go. I kind of weekend warrior my way through things. So when it's on my own garden. So that's kind of the approach I'm taking.
And it looks like you mulch pretty heavily. Is that right?
I do. Yeah. I love the tree chip mulch from the arborists. I've had at least 10 truckloads delivered over the years and in different gardens of mine. Sometimes if the blades are not super sharp, you get kind of a scrappy load, but what I tell people is that's okay. You can pick up the biggest twigs and pick up the biggest chunks. And then maybe you pay for a yard of some more uniform looking mulch so that, whoever's in your household doesn't freak out at the large pile that has been delivered. But also when the piles get delivered, they've got leaves, they've got twigs, they've got little bits in there. That starts to compost down almost immediately. So sometimes people call me saying, my pile is going to be on fire. And no, it's not. It's just heat and could be a little smoky. Those leaves and the twigs, the smaller things can break down. And you might want to wear a mask when you shovel it all out, but I just love it. Put it on nice and thick. And I have 0 weeds. And I live right next to a big open vineyard with tons of weeds.
Mm-hmm. So you can get free wood chips from Chip Drop if people are not.
Yes.
Chip Drop. And
yes.
You just go on and you sign up for what you want, and they hook you up with an arborist who needs to get rid of a load of chips. So it works
Yes.
out very well for everybody.
It does.
What is the approximate cost? Well, we're not worried about the approximate cost of a truckload of arborist chips. So wood chips cost about $30 a yard plus delivery is my experience. So it can be pretty expensive for something that you can really get.
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing a whole garden, you can be out $3,500 for paid for mulch. You can do the arborist route and it's $20 for their lunch fee. So, if I'm there and I just give the guys $20 or whatever. I don't know actually if there's a fee for Chip Drop.
Chip Drop, I think, is a voluntary offering.
Okay.
I don't think there's a fee for it. So someone asked, when will you be planting in your garden again?
I'm planting all the time.
Yeah, you plant even in the summer?
Yeah, even in the summer, because in the summer, so the availability of natives is sometimes a little weird. Nursery trade has a lot available in the spring when things have flowers, but that's not necessarily the ideal time to plant a lot of the natives. They'd rather be planted in the fall when they're getting ready to go into that winter rainy season. But the nursery trade, like landscaping, stops for no one, and it doesn't stop when it's hot either. So I just add more water to make sure that they're transitioning well into their new spot. And I mean, nobody really wants to be out on a hot day, so plants don't either. So I figure if I'm not comfortable outside, they're not comfortable, and I try to avoid planting then.
I know it's easiest to plant in the fall when the days are shorter and it's cooler, there's less stress on your plants, but we did also have our garden planted earlier than that, and we just applied water and it worked. Sometimes you just have to plant when you have to plant.
Yeah.
Beautiful plant labels, Kat.
Oh, thanks.
So
I'm teaching myself iMovie and teaching myself how to upload on YouTube, and I apologize for the low res. It looked great on my computer, and I'm watching it being uploaded. I'm like, ooh, yikes.
Well, we're of that age where we're leaning on our children to help us with the technical things, but I think your daughters did not even have to help you.
They did not. Maybe they should have.
That's good. Okay, so If you want to watch this video again and be able to view it more slowly so you can really tell what those plants are, when it goes up on YouTube, you can watch it in freeze frame. So you can write down the plant names if you want to know what they are. Okay, so if you'd like to see a portfolio of the gardens that Kat has designed, you can go to Find a Designer on the Garden Tours website. Look up Kat Weiss and you'll see the beautiful gardens that she has had on the tour over the years. And why don't we go, Kat, now and look at your second video.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Hi everyone, welcome to my house. My name is Kat Weiss, and the garden is about 2.5 years old for the things that I've added to it, but it was an existing garden, started in 2003, and I did keep some things because they were working well and very drought tolerant. So this house has a parkway strip, as you can see. I've added the tree chip mulch to it, which has helped immeasurably to keep down the weeds. Bindweed is still an issue. And I've also added some things. The HOA is actually in control of the parkway strip, but they said if I added some things and I wanted to take care of them, then I could. So I've added some island pink yarrow, and today is July 30th, so you can see that this is kind of a late summer occurrence where the Santa Barbara daisies have already passed, and you can see the seed heads on there. And I kind of prefer to keep the seeds to see who wants to eat anything. This is a hummingbird sage, Salvia spathacea, which is still lovely, even late in the summer. And we've got some freewheeling lavenders. There's a baby deer grass that I just put in, and the lavenders kind of tend to reseed themselves, happy accidents, and I just let it go. I've tried to put some emerald carpet manzanitas in here and added a couple more deer grass, so you can see it's quite a long piece of parkway strip. And then as we come around here, you'll notice the two chartreuse colored breath of heavens. Those were already here, and so what I'm doing is trying to add a bit of gray around them. What was here before was a field of star jasmine, so I came in and added this boulder wall, these gorgeous boulders. These are called ocean pearl, and I also recycled a bunch of rock from a fountain that we took out in the backyard, some bluestone pieces. I've got some Zebra River boulders under there, which are also gorgeous. And then here you can see this is our little Salvia apiana, and he's kind of new, the white sage. And again, here's the seed heads, and we're just gonna let those do their thing until I feel like coming out and snapping them off. Fun fact, deer like tomatoes. I just tried some tomato plants out here in the front for funsies, and the deer have found them, and they're just taking little tastes left and right. And we've got little monkey flower here, Mamulus ranchiacus. And then I've got a whole bunch of little California fuchsias, which I adore because at this point in time, late summer, they're starting to look awesome. I have one in the pot here who looks really fun with this copper color against the boulders. And again, here's some recycled stone that we used. This is a bit of a rangy fellow. This is Grindelia stricta. This is the gum plant, native gum plant. They're all over Sycamore Grove Park, which is right across the street from me. So I thought I would bring it in to see what happens. And it's sort of 7 feet across with all of these wonderful yellow blossoms. And I'll probably cut it all the way down to the ground to get ready for next year. There's some Chinese fringe loropetalum that were already here. Another of the California fuchsia, the Zauschneria or Epilobium, depending if you're talking to the nurseryman or the botanist. I also love doing pots, and I've got some native Dudleas. This guy is probably 5 years, 6 years old, and he just hangs out and continues to grow, sends off these awesome shoots of tripendicular colored flowers. This is a little LT gray fuchsia in here with a little Echeveria stuffed in there too. And one fun thing to do with pots is to go to Building Resources in South San Francisco, get some recycled terracotta or recycled glass of different colors that you can add to the top of your pots as a top dressing. And we can go down this little garden path here. This whole mound was not here, so I built this up. I've got some of the native mow-free sod in the backyard. So this little happy accident was a bunch of sod strips that were just left over. So I just threw down a little irrigation line and plopped the sod down to see what would happen. And now I have this lovely little grassy edge. And here's some paprika yarrow in there. A little blue fescue. And here is our Salvia mellifera, the black sage, who looked super cool in springtime and now is just kind of hanging out, still looking cool. The Galvesia, this guy's a baby, so I'm hoping he's going to flower a little bit more for me next year. And there's a couple Woods Compact Manzanitas, Arctostaphylos Woods Compact. This is a Kekiella cordifolia that you almost can't see in between all the mulch. And he had some really nice blossoms as well. Red, kind of an orangey red. And here is a friend's old birch tree that got chopped up, so I made some steps. And there's a John Dorley manzanita who I just think is awesome. He's kind of funky shaped, sprawly. It's a baby, but he has beautiful fall color and then beautiful new spring growth, kind of purpley. And he'll get little flowers in the winter like most of the manzanitas do. And here we have the California buckwheat, which is super cool. And I love the buckwheats. You can use 4, 5, 6 of them in one garden, and they all look like they're of the same family, but they have radically different sizes and textures. This guy could grow up to be about 7 feet around. The little creepy crawly ones, and you add it to this California buckwheat, and then you add it to St. Catherine's lace buckwheat, also not deer proof. And you've got like a whole buckwheat garden. You could just do a whole garden of manzanitas and buckwheats. And then I've got some baby ceanothuses up here. Julia Phelps. And there's a centennial. And then this is a little experiment. There is a pitcher sage right there behind the Breath of Heaven and Lepicina fragrance. And in front and all over the place, if you can see it, are seedlings of the goldenrod, which freely reseeded itself. So I went around and chopped the heads off them to see if I could get them to bush out a little bit more. And we'll see what happens. They should be coming into flower maybe 3 weeks, a month or so. And here's a baby Brandegee sage. And there's a child's wheelbarrow. And we've got our Artemisia pygnocephala right there. He's a little rangy. I might cut him back. For the most part, I just kind of let her rip and call it happy accidents. This is Bouteloua gracilis with these really fun little seed heads that to me look like little tiny mustaches. A really nice, light, airy grass. And this is a Siskiyou blue sage, which was originally created from Festuca idahoensis, but I think that in the trade we find that most of these guys are so hybridized that they might not be the original Idahoensis askew blue, but they're still fun. And here's a rock wall that is shoring up the bed. I've got some baby oaks happening right here that I'm hoping will sort of grow up and take over the Chinese pistache trees that were here. So it's kind of a transition to try to see if I can get some of these larger natives to overpower the typical landscape species that were originally here. And bit by bit, we can kind of go native. I'm hitting up on the 10-minute mark here, but I thought I would try to show you the view, for one, and the little western columbine, which is so much fun. Aquilegia formosa. He's kind of doing his thing in the full shade here. Here's a view of the little red fescue and molate fescue line. And then we go into a little bit of a shade garden and into the backyard. And this guy right here is the Arbutus marina, a hybrid originally created, we think, from the madrone and strawberry tree, but it's had some unclear origins when I've done my reading. Thanks for going on a little front yard tour with me. Bye.
All right, that was great, Kat.